Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I'm guest designing for Pretty Pink Posh this month using their brand new June 2021 release. There are lots of fun products for summer. For the first card, I'll be using their Vacation Scene die set. So it's about 3 inches and it creates this fun little image. Now I've already gone and cut out all of the different pieces. I like how there's a stitched circle die cut frame included with the set. Now I also cut out a circle die cut that's just a tiny bit smaller than the frame. Put liquid adhesive on the back and I'll adhere that circle behind. I'll add an acrylic block on top for some added weight to let that glue adhere. So once that's all ready, I can start adding all these different pieces inside the circle. So basically assembling a little puzzle. So I'm starting off with the sand. And I'm using mostly just solid cardstock for all the pieces. I did use some glitter cardstock for the sun. So I have my little beach chair in a fun pink color. Next I'll add the waves. Now some of these pieces are fairly small, so it does help to have some tweezers, and I'm using reverse tweezers. Those are my favorite. To build the scene, I found it easier to work from one side and just work my way up. So starting with the sand and moving on to the waves of the chair. Now I have the sky. Next I'll add the sun. I have one more part of the sky and it is leaving that little opening for the umbrella stand. And I did use some white shimmer cardstock for the umbrella stand and also that stitched circle frame die cut. Then the umbrella has to be pink naturally. Decided to go with more of a hot pink color. Now you can see those tiny little gaps underneath the arms of the chair. There's 2 different pieces that go underneath each side. So it continues on with the water in the sky. So to help pick up these teeny tiny pieces, I am using an embellishment wand and then just pushing those in place with the opposite end. So there is that finished scene, and I love all the detail, but it's very flat, so it'd still be easy to mail. Now I'll be bringing in the Stacked Edges die set number 3 as this fun scallop die. Cut out 3 different pieces. I have some white shimmer cardstock, some pink, and I also use some satin mirror cardstock. It's the blue obsidian color from Tonic Studios. So that's the one I'm adhering down first. For the background panel, I use some more of that white shimmer cardstock. So I put liquid adhesive on the back to adhere this die cut piece. Next, I'll add the pink underneath the blue. And I realized I did not cut that pink long enough. I must have had a very short cardstock piece. You can see on the very left-hand side, there's a little gap, but I'll fix that here in a moment. Then I'll add the white above the blue. Trying to get them nice and straight and not have any gaps between each of the pieces. Next, I'll flip over this panel and trim off the extra. I also used my paper trimmer to cut down that left-hand side so it was nice and even. So you can see all that shimmer and shine with the specialty cardstock I used. I put my card front onto a card base. Now I'll bring in that little beach scene. Before adhering it to the card, I am adding some scrap cardstock to the very top. Just needed a small piece. Then I'll add some thin foam squares to the back to pop it up. I like to use the thin foam squares. They're not quite as thick and it's easier to mail a card without paying any extra postage. So I'll remove the release paper. I made sure to get good coverage. There isn't one area that sags. Then I'll adhere it to the center of those Stacked Edges die cuts. For the sentiment, I used the Summer Wreath stamp set. There's a sentiment included, Summer Greetings. Stamp that out on some white cardstock. Before adhering it, I will add some foam dimension on the very right-hand side, just to keep it at the same level as that circle panel. I'll place it right underneath the umbrella on the right-hand side. Then for a finishing touch, I'm using the sparkling clear jewels from Pretty Pink Posh. I'll add 2 in the lower right-hand corner and 3 in the upper left-hand corner. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick those up since they don't have adhesive on them. I'll add a drop of Barely Art liquid glue and then adhere them in place. So there is my finished card. That little scene is so fun to create. It does take a little extra time cutting out all the pieces and assembling them together, but I think it's worth it. It's such a fun little scene. Now moving on to card number 2. So I'm using that same stacked edge die, that fun scallop. This time I cut out several different pieces using 4 different shades of pink. I have a background panel that I'm covering with ATG tape, and I'll start stacking all these pieces together. I'm starting with the top, trying not to have any of that white card base showing. Also trying to make sure to get it nice and straight. So if I can get the first one down straight, then it'll look okay. If I get one down crooked, then the rest of them are going to go crooked as well. So I love how these line up perfectly, so you can just stack them all together. Started with that dark pink and just working my way down to the lighter pink. Now for the very bottom, it's hard to get a full piece on there, so I did add some liquid adhesive just to make sure it's going to stay in place. So I'll flip over this panel, use my scissors, and just run them along the edge of that white cardstock to trim off the extra. Once I had all of those extra pieces cut off, I realized there's a tiny bit of the white cardstock showing in that lower left-hand corner. So I did go and trim down that panel just a little bit more. Then I'll layer this piece on some white shimmer cardstock. Then I'll layer it again on some pink cardstock. I use that same dark pink color as those top pieces. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and adhere my card front to a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Then using that same vacation scene from card number 1, I cut out another stitch circle frame, and I'll adhere it to a circle die cut. I use the white shimmer cardstock for both of those pieces. Once those are adhered, I can attach it to the center of my card panel, having it a little more toward the top of the card. So I do use my acrylic block just to make sure that glue will all adhere. Now for this card, I'm using a couple images from the summer wreath set. I have the popsicle and also the ice cream cone. I used my Copic markers and colored those images using a few different shades of pink and then brown for the cone. Now I'll just adhere them randomly in that circle, kind of flipping them around. The sentiment is from Pretty Pink Posh. This is their simple sentiment set. Love this. It's got some great sentiments you can use all year round. With all those fun little ice cream treats, I thought the Yours Sweet sentiment went perfectly. So now I'll add liquid adhesive to the back of all the little images and adhere them inside that circle. I don't color images very often, but I figure I could handle these teeny tiny little images from the summer wreath set. So once those are all in place, I can adhere the sentiment. I will add some scrap pieces of cardstock where the sentiment will go over that circle frame die cut. I'll put 2 little pieces on the very right hand side and then just 1 scrap piece on the left. And you can see I'm using the back side of a mis-stamped sentiment. So I'll adhere those in place, add some liquid adhesive, and then adhere it to the right hand side, just tucking it between some of those treats. Then for a finishing touch, I'll add some more of the sparkling clear jewels. Put 2 of them in the upper left-hand corner and then 3 around the sentiment. I like how there's several different sizes included in this mix. I'll use my embellishment wand to pick those up, add a drop of liquid adhesive, and that glue will dry clear, so you're not going to see it later. I'll also add some Nuvo glitter drops to the edge of all of those little treats. This is the Enchanting pink color. So just 1 tiny little drop on the right-hand side of each of those treats. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. Look at all that fun pink. I did end up making 2 of that same card. Even with the addition of the jewels, this card is still fairly flat and shouldn't need any additional postage to mail. I've had so much fun guest designing for Pretty Pink Posh this month. Absolutely love their release, especially the stacked edges die set. Those are always my favorite. I do have links provided in the description box if you are interested in any of the products I used in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.